back to these sessions as well. And then, I'll kind of call out Trailhead having exam guides and also new badges on there for you to go through and play around with. But cross workspace permissioning is going to be in there. You want to think about how to decide which permissions are required for certain scenarios, enabling a feature for some or all. So determining what the best setting might be to be able to answer a question or hit a scenario. And then for that multi-workspace access, how do we make sure that we're setting things in such a way that someone has access to the right workspaces, they're not getting too much access, it's a good user experience for them. And then for Slack Connect, more scenario-based questions is kind of the general theme here, but determining how best to configure Slack Connect, when to use it, when not to use it, and some other options there as well. In the first session, you got a lot of org management. There's probably some workspace management there as well. But in case you don't have any exposure really to Slack, I just wanted to do a quick overview of some of what you can expect. So if we think about what Slack is, it's not just, a communication collaboration platform. It really has become much more than that. We're actually operating our business basically on Slack. So it's your company's home base, if you will. So you could be using it just for channels, but you might also be using automation. You might also be working with partners in there. You might be integrating with other systems. So it's really that hub that you're working through. It is, architecturally designed around channels. So you can think of that as a topic, a team, or a project. Some folks are also starting to think about that as rooms. So it's our, it's our boardroom, it's our room for engineers. So now it's kind of evolving as well, not just topic, team, and project based, but really a room as well. So if we start to think about that expanding, if a channel is a room, then maybe my workspace could be a level in a building, and my enterprise grid could be the entire building that my company operates in. I tend to use that analogy as well when thinking about enterprise grid architecture. We have channels, of course, where we're collaborating and having conversations. And then we've got threading, which really keeps an entire conversation together in one message. It can definitely be the hardest thing for folks to adopt, but it is very beneficial when we start thinking about AI and that search context. If we keep one conversation together, then whatever agent we end up using in the future is going to have the full context it needs. And if we're ever searching for answers or information, we find the thread, we've got all the information we need. We, of course, can direct message. It's kind of like your water cooler conversation, your highs, hellos. So you do still have the ability to send messages directly to people. Maybe you just need a quick, discrete answer to a question. But as soon as it gets into something that other people can or should be collaborating on, we want to go back to that channel mentality. And then, of course, search, because Slack is very searchable. The search architecture is very strong. The functionality has been broadening as well. Now we have enterprise search, which I'm sure you'll hear about in a little bit. But everything is searchable. It is, your company's home base, but it's also going to be that knowledge, that context, that historical information, because now it's becoming that source of truth for your organization. So Slack can do a lot of things. I'm hoping that you get a lot out of this. And again, just ask questions along the way. I'll continue to monitor chat as well. Okay, let's get into it. Different types of channels and access models. So we are starting with our public channel. So you have private channels, and then you have those shared connect channels as well. A private channel, it's got that hashtag next to it. If you ever see that symbol to the left, that is open and available to everyone in the workspace. You don't have to join them. You can read through them. If you want to participate in the conversation, you have to join, and then you can exit at any time. And then general, I think announcements is another one. They're defaulting to public. Most of the time, organizations are going with a public first mentality. Your private channels you want to save for HR teams. Maybe you have a legal team, you have something sensitive that's being worked on. You're potentially building out a new product or project that is not ready for everyone to see or know about. So it's going to be things that are a little bit more sensitive. It's going to have that padlock symbol to the left. And you cannot just search and find this channel. You have to be invited to join this channel. You can still leave. You're allowed to exit those. You'd have to be re-invited to get back into that. So public, you can search it. Available to anyone to join. Private, you cannot find that through searching. You'd have to be invited to that. Now, shared channels can be public or private, and they are connections between two Slack workspaces. So the best example that I tend to give for this, if you're a business and you're working with a partner or a vendor, even a customer like we do on our side, you might set up a shared channel with that customer or vendor if they also have Slack. It's like a tunnel between your two workspaces. You don't have a charge for talking to someone in that shared channel. If you're both on a paid plan, so you're just creating a tunnel between your two workspaces, and then you're building out your canvases in there. You're sharing information back and forth. If it's public, again, it's searchable. If it's private, it's not. But it is a way to connect with external organizations and still work async. Any questions about channels so far?
I think so. We are good. Don't see any questions.
Awesome. Okay. So channel management. There are workspace settings that can actually control that we'll look at on the back end. The permissions that you have to create channels, to create, public versus private. And those are set through roles, and we'll talk about that on the admin side. So Slack always, the architecture really keeps security in mind. So they have, I would say, even granular permissioning around most of their functionality. And I would also say posting permissions is really important to know and understand. So just because you're in a channel doesn't always mean that you're able to post in that channel. Maybe you've been in some workspaces where you see that you're getting notifications from a channel, but you can't type anywhere. You can actually lock down or restrict who has access to post in a channel. So you might have a company announcements channel, and you only want members of leadership team to post in there, or you only want your comms team to post in there. You're able to set at that nuance level. You also have the ability to set default channels for new members to your workspace. So that's a fun thing that I'll show you on the side. So maybe every time you're onboarding someone into your teams, you want them to join specific channels. Maybe you have a chit chat channel, maybe you have a fun channel or a challenge channel. Whatever makes the most sense for your organization, you can actually default as well at a workspace level. And then, not something we'll get deep into today, but you also have the ability to control or set initial channel access through SCIM provisioning as well. And then archiving. We want to think about channel life cycle. So not just user life cycle, but channel life cycle. Just because we create a channel doesn't mean we need it forever, right? So if we have a project that we started, maybe that project has ended, we absolutely want to be able to archive a channel. The great news is that just because we archive it doesn't mean we lose access to it, doesn't mean we lose that historical knowledge, just means it gets us out of that channel, and that gets pushed into a set of channels that we don't see regularly. So it kind of cleans up our sidebar as well. And you can always unarchive a channel. If a customer comes back or that project restarts for whatever reason, whatever the use case there, you can bring that back to life. So you as the admin are controlling and setting that life cycle, as well as the permission that folks have within channels. And you can set that at an org level, and some of these can also be set at workspace levels. So you're probably thinking, okay, Nicole, what do I need to know, right? So we need to understand there's public channels, there's private channels. I can connect with other organizations. When does it make sense to do that, right? If they have Slack, then it probably makes sense to collaborate through a Slack Connect channel or that shared channel. If they don't, there's other methods to collaborate. And once we do create channels, I, as an admin, can control the permissions that people have in those channels. And I can control or help others control the posting permissions. And as an admin, I can help the journey of my users by setting default channels. And I can help keep things clean by helping people archive or archiving things myself. For finding and joining channels, I know I mentioned that earlier, you can find public channels. We want to keep a search first mentality. So you can search for channels on the left-hand side. We'll look at that on the search bar. And then you can also, if you're into it, you have shortcut keys that you can use. I don't have those memorized. I usually just use the user interface there, but you can certainly search through shortcuts. You want to keep things clean and help your users understand notifications. You want to help users understand organizing their sidebar, and help them understand that they can join and leave channels to keep things clean and organized. That's part of ongoing user enablement and adoption, which feeds into almost every aspect. But understanding those core features, like how to search, how to organize your sidebar and create sections, how to deal with notifications, that's inevitably going to help you and your end users as well. Okay, we're creating channels. We want to help people be organized. So we've got to give them some naming conventions. There are some standard ones that we tend to show in training and examples. You really want to set your naming convention dictionary, right? You want to set the guide that makes sense for your organization. So if you have team channels, maybe they all start with team. If that doesn't make sense for you though, then what does make sense for your organization? You want to create that guide and then throw that in a canvas, right? We'll look at those. Create a guide and maybe keep it on SharePoint if that's where your organization's knowledge lives. But when you create naming conventions for channels, you're helping people quickly find what they need to and help them organize around those channels. It's going to help them get through their day a little bit faster. Your job as an admin, and if a consultant, if you ever choose to go that way, is to help people understand that they should have good naming conventions and how to set them. So for us, I like to give the example, since we do work with customers through Slack, and we have those shared channels, our team channels for projects start with INT dash for internal. And that way I can quickly see, okay, this is my internal team channel. And then my external channels start with EXT. So I can quickly identify, okay, this is a external customer channel, right? That helps me understand the type of messaging I might send, from one to the other. I probably wouldn't send the same message to the customer that I might send to the team if I'm looking for updates, right? You might word things differently. You can use project, PROJ, you can spell the whole thing out. You can use help for your IT channels. Maybe you have a help dash Slack channel. Anything that's going to help your company organize around how do we organize these channels is what you want to set. It is very helpful, again, for people to navigate their day. They're inevitably going to have a lot of channels. If you're in a bunch of workspaces, I'm sure you've felt that before. It's going to help you when you're archiving things, quickly get things out of the way, help people understand what's important to pay attention to, and really help them, just help themselves. Any questions around naming conventions? You can make them fun too. My company name is SaltClick, so we use salt a lot, but we have like a salty babies channel, so they don't always have to be serious. And that's for like, you know, our kids and everything.
I think so. We have one question in Q&A section from
Yeah.
Amruta. She says, when a channel is archived, can Slackbot still search and surface that knowledge?
Yes. Yeah. So that's still available, just like you would be able to search. It takes on your permissioning, which is pretty fun. But yes, it becomes kind of your historic knowledge. Okay, a little more context knowledge, just in case I wanted to pop that in throughout. You have the ability to @mention in Slack. Not sure if you guys have tried that yet or seen that. If you @ someone's name, that mentions, it notifies them directly. If you're in a channel, you can use @here, and that pings people that are in the channel and active in that moment. And then @channel notifies anyone that's added to the channel, even if they're not active at that moment. And then you also have @everyone, and that works, literally just pings everyone. But we always want to remember, with great power comes great responsibility. So if we think about how many channels folks are in, the other, modes of communication they have, phone, email, etc., we really want to be mindful of how often we're pinging people, which one we're using, right, and which use case. That's definitely going to be part of the questions you're probably going to see, when to use which mention, and when not to use it. But just think about, how many notifications you're getting. And then especially when we start thinking about workflows too, automatically pinging people or sending scheduled messages, we just want to remember how powerful those mentions are. And as an admin, you have ways to decrease people's ability to use the larger ones, like @everyone and @channel. Okay, fun one I think is user groups. So mentioning, sorry, excuse me 1 second. So it's a user group is basically a way, and I'll show you how to do this on the admin side, to create a group of people, to be able to add them to channels all at one time, to be able to notify them at one time as well. So it's not a channel, but it is a group of people. And the easiest use case that comes to mind for me is an IT team, or maybe you have a Slack team, and you will create that group. You will add that team to that group, and you might want to add that group to an IT or a Slack help channel. And then if needed, someone might submit a request and they @mention that group. So it's not going to necessarily mention everyone that's in that channel. Maybe you add everyone in the company to that channel in case they need to submit help requests. It will only notify that team. You can also use this in workflow and notifications as well. If you have any kind of automations around notifying teams and moving messages between channels, which gets really fun. But it's I like to relate it to like an email group alias, or even, a support inbox. So it's a way to notify a group of people at one time, and it's a way to add people to channels at one time. So you could also use this for, if you have a support team and they have to be in certain channels, you can create groups for that as well. And again, I'll show you this on the admin side. Okay, also quick note here, just in case, I didn't want to assume knowledge. There are different levels of plans for Slack. So not sure if session 1 had this fully covered, but I wanted to add it in there just in case. But you have, of course, the free version of Slack. Does not keep historical messaging. and it doesn't have the ability to do the Slack Connect channels. And then you have Pro, Business Plus, and Enterprise Plus. Now they're calling it. I have to adjust that piece. But they each build on top of one another when it comes to features and functionality. Of course, Enterprise Plus is going to have the most. It's going to have the free, well, I shouldn't say free, unlimited Slackbot usage, and the others are prorated. But I wanted to call out there are different level of plans, and each of these have different features and functions available because of the leveling there. They all have the ability to have guest users, and for Pro, Business Plus, and Enterprise Grid, you can have multi-channel guest users, but they end up being the same as a paid user. So just wanted to share that just in case. I will say too, the exam lends itself a lot to the Enterprise Plus. So you definitely want to understand the differences between the plans, why you might want to choose one plan over the other. And then there's going to most likely be a lot of scenario questions based off of what's available for Enterprise Plus. Okay. I used to say the biggest differentiator for Enterprise Plus was the need for multiple workspaces. That is still very, very true. But one of the new emerging use cases is also going to be Slackbot. But because there are multiple workspaces that you can create in one enterprise grid org, you want to understand how to manage users across workspaces. So you really want to think about when you're architecting your Enterprise Plus org, how many workspaces do you need, right? I know that was talked about in the first session, but the more workspaces you have, the more you're going to have to think about who should be in each workspace. And I'll show on the admin side too, where you can add folks to different workspaces. And if you want to, you can use skim provisioning to automatically add users to certain workspaces there. But because we are dealing with multiple workspaces, we want to think about, okay, who should be in each one? And we have the ability to have cross workspace channels. So just because a user might be in workspace A, but not in workspace B, doesn't mean they can't talk to each other. So every Slack workspace has a general channel, right? So you could actually have a channel that goes across all the workspaces in your org. Maybe you want everyone to be able to participate in a chit chat channel. Maybe you want one to just go across a couple workspaces. You have the ability to create channels and share them between workspaces. So even though you have segmented workspaces, you can still have webs that connect between them. As an org owner, you're controlling a lot of this top level access. You're able to give workspace admins certain levels of access as well. And you definitely want to understand the permissioning that org admins can give to workspace admins. So for example, for this one, workspace admins can manage channels in their own workspace, but not at the org level. So org admins and org owners would have to set up those cross workspace channels. This is just an example to think about based on these channels. And I'll show that. I know I keep saying this, but I'll show that in the admin section. Okay, so on grid again, you can have multiple workspaces. A user can be added to just one workspace. They can be added to all of them, really whatever fits your needs there. And as an admin, you can add, remove, move people around. If you're removing folks from a workspace, doesn't mean you're disabling their entire account. You're just taking them out of that. And then you can set default workspaces or automatically add folks to workspaces with skim provisioning. And then this is controlled at an org level. Any questions? I know I'm kind of zipping right along. I'm going to drink some soda since it's late in the day for me.
Yeah, and I see no questions as of now on Q&A section.
Perfect. Okay. So thinking about any tier of Slack besides free, Pro, Business Plus, Enterprise Plus, you're having basically inside and outside of your organization purview when you're thinking about architecture. So inside of your Enterprise Plus, it's going to be your certain channels, your user groups, sharing users across workspaces, sharing channels across workspaces. Think about that as inside of your organization. And then when we're thinking about external collaboration, it's kind of a signal on the exam as well. We're thinking about Slack Connect. So part of the thought process as an admin is thinking about security and trust inside and outside of your organization and the policies that you need to set up. You might not want everyone to be able to accept or create a Slack Connect request. So there's ways to set approvals for there. You might not want everyone to be able to even make a request for that. You might want to also control the ability to request a new workspace. That's actually a feature on the admin side. And then when you do have external connections, that external collaboration, Slack's going to give you a visual indicator that someone's from outside of your organization. So it's another trust layer item. So you'll have a visual indicator, a little badge next to that person, as well as a visual indicator on the channel itself. So it's a way that you can actually teach your organization how to understand when there is external collaboration happening. So for us as admins, it's understanding the security around Slack Connect and having external connections and any impacts there. And then it's also teaching other folks how to identify if there are external collaborators in your workspace as well, and really helping them understand any kind of security policies that are in place because of that. You can actually, in Enterprise Plus, limit the ability to share files and external channels. You can limit the ability to download certain information as well. So those type of visual indicators are helpful for people to understand, oh, I might not be able to perform this function because I'm in an external channel, and here are the reasons why. So there's a lot of security layers in place. Slack Connect, I think, is one of the more fun ones. Fun fact, when you do set up a shared Slack Connect channel with an organization, you can actually grab their custom emojis. So be on the lookout for that. But when the feature is enabled, you as an admin have the ability to control if that's allowed in your organization or not. On the back end, we'll walk through that. So if you do allow it, then folks can request it or receive that from external parties. You can set up approval processes for that too, which is very, very helpful. You can get a notification as an admin. You can have it go to a channel, which is very helpful. But understanding those pieces is going to be key for the exam as well. So there's going to be scenario-based questions. You want to understand that you as an admin control at an org level if it's even available, and that you can control that approval process there as well. There's a lot around security and control for this one. And a couple times I think I've said out loud, a general theme for Slack admins is, especially at the enterprise level, is this something that everyone should be allowed to do? Or is this something that we should be controlling at an admin level? There might be times where you only want org admins and org owners to be able to control certain settings. And there may be times when you want workspace admins and owners to take on those settings. And then for these feature enablements. I'll show you those in the admin setting. You want to think about what makes sense for everyone to have access to, or only certain groups of people. Some features you don't really have a choice, like AI in Enterprise Plus. It's basically everybody or nobody. But other features you might actually be able to set at a group level. You might be able to set everyone, a group, and then specific people. So you really want to work with your administrators, your owners, to set policies in place for who should have access to certain features and functionality. You can get to certain levels of permission there, like talked about. Some of them are nuanced, some of them are not. And you always want to make sure that you're documenting this too. I can't remember if there's a lot of scenario or detailed questions around this one, but I think just a best practice is when you're thinking about permissions and who should be able to do what, documenting that and having that available. And the decision around the why is going to be great to reflect back on as well. A lot of times you'll have from your initial implementation, here are the settings we're going to have. Here's our training. Here's, some canvases that we have in place. We don't always capture the why though. So that would be helpful to capture as you're working through that as an admin. And then we'll go through the steps in our setup. Okay, another fun fact, just in case folks didn't have exposure to this, we're sending a lot of messages and channels, and sometimes things get lost in the scroll. So if something's very important, you actually have the ability to pin that message so that it stays at the top and it's easy to see and find for everyone that's looking in that channel. You can bookmark something. And you can also remind yourself on that. I don't have that in the slide. You can set a reminder for yourself to go the next day at a certain time, in an hour, and 3 hours. So there's various ways in Slack, which I think is great to pin or favorite information, or even showcase that a little bit more for your end users as well. This is another example of something that's helpful to know and then teach your end users as well. Likely not questions on this in there, just some core functionality I wanted to call out for everybody. Okay, any questions so far? I don't think I see anything in the chat.
No, we don't have any.
Okay. All right, lists and canvases. I always say Canvi, but canvases I think is the term that the Slack folks like. But Slack lists are a way to go through and document tasks, maybe for projects. Maybe you have action items after meetings. Maybe you have a to-do list that you want to track certain information on. I would say from experience, it's not meant to replace something like Jira or Asana or anything like that. It is not yet a heavy project management tooling, but it's really great for tracking to-dos, smaller requests, things that you don't need to report on. It's kind of how I talk through it with folks. You do have the ability to assign those tasks or list items to people. You have the ability to define fields. You can set priorities. You can set different statuses there. You can set follow-up dates that now send reminders. So they're definitely building on top of that. And then you want to think about for the exam, different use cases for Slack lists. And there's a lot of this on Trailhead too, I think. And now that they're updating it as well. Each channel you can have lists added to. You can add multiple lists. You can put a list in a canvas. You can have a standalone list. And you can actually have the same for canvases. So you can have a canvas in a channel. You can have it standalone. You can have a canvas inside of a canvas. I actually used to not really like canvases. If I'm being honest, I didn't see the use case for it because we are a heavy Confluence shop. But the more I use it, the more I like it. And we really gravitate toward both of these for, I would say, project management channels that we have with our customers. We still use Jira for actually managing through project tasks, but we use our canvases to define out the project charters. We talk through stakeholders in there. We track action items with lists. So a use case could be lightweight project management, maybe for internal projects as well. Another one might be, if you've got an HR team that has to get through event planning, they could be doing something in Slack lists as well. And not in our section, but I'm sure something you're going to be hearing more about. You can actually combine workflows and Slack lists. So you could start to build a smaller intake process. We have that with a couple of our customers as well. They'll submit structured information in a workflow, and it will create a Slack list, and it will send a notification to channel. And then we actually have a Slack list status that'll create a Jira ticket. So you can actually start to chain things together there. But for the purposes of our exam, you want to make sure you understand Slack lists and Canvas and different use cases and scenarios for using those. And we'll look at a couple of those in Slack as well. Okay, and this slide, it really is kind of thinking through scenario-based situations that might come up and some things you might see on the exam as well. So I called them out as signals here, but things that you want to think about as you're going through the exam. If a scenario is talking about an external partner, client, or vendor, you want to think about that kind of dual slide we had where it was inside and outside. If it's external, client, partner, vendor, then you want to think probably this is going to be about Slack Connect. And if I'm thinking about the admin lens, we may or may not be thinking about approvals. We might be thinking about maybe guest users as well. So signals, external partner, most likely going to be about Slack Connect for that question. If the scenario is talking about reaching every member, or we should reach out to every member, then this is likely going to be workspace level setting, not a channel. So if it's related to every member, something that impacts every user, it's probably going to be workspace level or org level, not channel specific. If the scenario is about going across multiple workspaces, this is probably something that's going to be related to org level permissioning, might be dealing with org owner or admin over, or org admin. If the scenario is around sensitive information, HR, legal, etc., or they're talking about wanting to make a requirement of an invite only for a certain situation, we want to think about private channels. And if a scenario is talking about channel lists, then we might want to think about naming conventions and archiving there. Excuse me. I do have, I wasn't sure, I know we were chit-chatting about this before. I wasn't sure if anyone had access to the Slack Developer Program Free Workspace, but I do have, I would say basically like a work exercise that I'm going to send out after. But you'll go through different exercises for channels, for user group, and Slack Connect to help you prepare for the exam. But instead of doing that on the call, because I wasn't sure again who was going to have access to that, I'm just going to go to my demo org and walk through a couple things there. But I just wanted to call out, you'll get the slides and that little exercise sheet, so you can do that after. Any questions on anything I went over?
I think so. We are good, Nicole.
Okay. All right, I stopped sharing, so now I can start sharing my demo org. I can't say enough about the dev program. They have a ton of, not just for the workspaces, but if you are a developer, they have dev projects there as well. Okay, I'm going to see. Did this come through? Okay. Okay, you're probably used to seeing, I have so many tabs, a different lens for your Slack experience. You're probably used to seeing this look and feel for Slack. But you probably have exposure to direct messages. You probably have exposure to channels. If you have connected Slack and Salesforce, you might have a different experience there as well. Here we go. Probably familiar with this look and feel. If you haven't gone to the admin side yet, this is what it looks like for the enterprise level. There's a ton of information in here. So I'm not going to go through every single thing because it's probably going to be too much information. But you have your home area where you can actually see members, you can see workspaces that exist, you can even see all of the channels that are created. You can see different integrations, and then if you are connected to different Salesforce orgs, and you'll see that there as well. I can see, again, those workspaces. I do want to jump into my admin setting. I know we were talking a little bit about setting default channels, so I just wanted to show you what that looked like. So right here, we've got default channels. All I have to do is find the default channel, the new one that I want to add, and then choose to add it. So very simple UI, and then I just hit save. But a lot of the features and functions that we talked about, it's not click heavy. It's right there surfaced to us, and it's really easy to get to and complete. So even though this might look overwhelming, it's really just going through each section, reviewing what's in there, and then usually able to work through whatever task is needed right on that screen. But it's usually as simple as, just like that default channel, just searching, finding, and then adjusting as needed. Again, I can see all the members that are in. If I do have those Slack Connect channels, I'd be able to see all the external people as well. So it's a way as an admin that I can see how many people are we actually connected to, how many organizations, is there a connection that we shouldn't have, and then I can go take action from there. I don't have any for my demo org, so none showing. And then this is where I can set groups. So I have a fake one here, IT team, but I'll show you really quick, creating a new group. I could say Slack helpers. You can give it a description, and then you can actually choose whether or not you want to make it mentionable. So I'll just check that box really quick. And if I do, I can give it a custom Slack handle, which would be what I mention. So I'll just say Slack helpers, create and add members. Just going to add random member here. And then I just have to refresh and it'll show for us. But creating a group is really that quick. And then I can use that inside of Slack. The other thing I wanted to show you is roles and permissions. So account type is a gigantic screen with a ton of checkboxes. Might seem overwhelming at first, but basically it just gives you a grid or matrix view of all of the permissions that exist for Slack and whether or not that permission is enabled for different types of users. So being able to add and edit custom emojis is a permission. And then I can see who has that permission enabled. They're going to get a green checkbox. So as an admin, I can come in and audit pretty quickly who can complete certain tasks. So when we were talking about permissions and policies earlier, this is one of the places that I would go to. And then editing this is pretty user-friendly. Just going to hit the dots and hit edit. You also have the ability to create roles. I'm sorry, not create roles, to adjust roles. You can actually create custom roles too. But for any of the roles that exist, So if you need someone to be a Salesforce admin, security admin, skill manager, 3 dots, and you're assigning to people. So for the account types, for the roles, for the feature access, one of the big things for admins is number one, understanding where to go, understanding how to edit and adjust, but also thinking about the different scenarios that you might come across. So we were talking a little bit before around who might have access to, I think we were talking about messaging in certain channels. You can set who has the ability to create public channels, who can create private channels. A lot of those are really the permissions for that are contained within this roles and permission section. And then feature access we chatted about too. AI is a biggie. I know we're talking about Slackbot and all kinds of great stuff. So this is where I can actually enable that for everyone. I can enable feedback for everyone. We can enable recap, different AI functionalities. No one, only specific people, everyone, except specific people, or everyone in general. So really getting into these sections and checking out the different features and permissions is helpful for that exam readiness as well. And again, the demo orgs are free through that Slack Dev workspace. Okay. And then the last thing I was going to show really quick is just a Slack Connect channel. But did anyone want to see anything else in here while I have it open?
Like one question, so like a user, how many channels or user groups can create? It must be dependent on the license, right?
How many user groups can you create?
Yeah, or the channels.
You can create, I don't know if there's a limit to the number of channels that you can create. I haven't heard one yet. And I haven't heard any kind of limits around user groups, but I think it's a great question I can ask the product team. Great question. I can follow up on that. Okay, so I'll go over to, okay. So as an org admin, I might want to create a new channel. I'm gonna, because there are multiple workspaces, I have to choose which workspace to create it in. So I'll just keep this one. I'm gonna be super boring right now because it's late and I can't be creative. So I'm just calling it test channel. I'm gonna say it's public. And I don't need to add anybody to it yet. But I'm gonna come over here and I'm actually gonna set this to be a shared channel. Oh, where did my setting go? I don't want Slack. Well, here's where you can edit posting permission as an admin. And then you can actually restrict AI usage for certain channels. So that's a lot more granular now. And you can restrict whether or not guests are allowed to be in certain channels. Here's where you can delete a channel. You can archive it. You can change a channel from public to private, but can't change it from private to public. Well, I don't know where it went. I'm going to blame this on it being late. Oh, here we go. Right in front of my face. Okay. So when you go into the channel settings and you go to about, you can actually see which workspaces the channel is in. And you can just add other workspaces. Now, if there were more than one, it would show all of those for you. But this is how you could actually set it to be across different workspaces. But again, so far, a lot of the stuff I've gone through, it's not super click heavy. It's pretty user friendly. It's really about understanding the features and functions and then the scenarios around when it makes sense to be on different plans, use certain functions. But any questions around anything that I went through?
I think so. We have one question from Shivam. It says, is there any governor limit to in Slack, like limit use of resources to each profile and users?
No, so it wouldn't be there wouldn't be governor limits in that way. And I was just having a conversation with somebody about integrations and like usage. It's different than kind of like the Salesforce governor limits. So I would say no, not like by user there. And I don't think they really published the integration limits either. But great
Okay.
question.
Yeah, and we have another. As a company grows and Slack channels keep increasing, what are some simple ways to make sure important information doesn't get lost or scattered across different channels?
That's a great question. Because if you're not controlling who can create channels, then you're probably going to have some kind of channel sprawl, right? So it's a great idea to always hold office hours to remind people about best practices. It's a great idea to have champions that are looking out for these kind of things. Um, and I'm sure, like most companies, most folks, if there's not reminders and people that are actually taking those best practices are probably not going to get done. But a lot of it at that point is really setting best practices, monitoring that they're being followed, and then grabbing some champions to also help because you're not going to be able to be in all places at once. And then I would also highly recommend, I would say at least like quarterly audits for the channels that are being created. And then I would say pretty regular again on the reminders and the cadence of information that you're sending out to folks around best practices.
Thank you so much for answering. And I think so that's all we have in the question section. S- Okay, so I think so we are good to wrap up. Right, Nicole?
Yeah. And then I'll send the slides out. Found a couple things I want to clean up. And then I have like an exercise guide to go through if you guys want to join the Slack Dev program. And then you can go through and practice creating a user group, creating Slack channels, archiving them, and then a couple other things in there as well.
Yeah, thanks. Before wrapping up, at the end of the bootcamp, we do have certification vouchers which the participants can claim, and for that, participation in each session is mandatory. So at the end of the session, like the last session of this bootcamp, um, we will have the winners for certification vouchers. And before wrapping it up, thank you so much, Nicole, for taking this up at the very last moment. And I know it is super late for you, but still you managed to like give it. And thanks so much. Um, uh, doesn't seems to be night at your end. You're super active there, but yeah, thank you so much again from us.
Yeah, thank you for the invite. Apologies if any of that I was babbling or seemed confusing. It's like 12:30 my time, but it was super exciting to get the invite. I appreciate you reaching out. Very grateful for the opportunity to meet everybody and chat with everybody. And I'm always in Slack if you guys have any questions too.
Yeah, great. Thank you, everyone, and see you around. Have a great night, Nicole. Bye.
Thank you. See ya.